Well, hello, everyone. It's very nice to see a very nice gathering of people here for the debates. My name is Serge Nedeljkovic from the Newton Highlands Neighborhood Area Council. And thank you to all the Area Council volunteers who helped organize this, and Chris Pitts especially, and the crew filming. It's my pleasure to introduce Alan Spatrick. He's going to be the moderator for this debate. Alan is a longtime Newton resident, and he's been a homeowner here in Newton since 1993.
Yep.
I've been here since 1992, so we're kind of even there. He's also, very importantly right now, a reporter and a board member for Fig City News. And between Fig City and the Newton Beacon, we're all very well informed these days. He also serves on the Coolidge Corner Theater Foundation in Brookline. Board.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And also managing principal and Makita Investment Group. He's a chartered financial analyst and a graduate of Brandeis University. And so, Alan, thank you so much for being moderator, and let the games begin.
Thank you, Serge. I'll introduce the three candidates, starting immediately to my right. John Chemanis is an Auburndale resident, father of three young children, a co-founder of an inner-city school, and currently managing director at Kendall Sustainable Infrastructure. With a finance background and a focus on data-driven decision-making, John cares strongly about great schools, champions practical, non-ideological solutions, supports local businesses, growth, and is committed to preserving Newton's green spaces and village character. Next to him is Cyrus Damubed. Cyrus, a lifelong Newton resident, studied at Northeastern and Harvard, and has built his career as an architectural and urban designer focused on how community engagement drives smart civic solutions. At 32, he'd bring over 3 decades of Newton knowledge to the council as its youngest member. And furthest away from me, incumbent John Krinsman. Josh Krinsman. My apologies.
Just check Krinsman on the ballot. That'll be fine.
Josh is an attorney with over 20 years experience in law and government relations. A Newton City Councilor since 2017. He chairs Programs and Services Committee, focuses on fiscal balance, village vitality, and supporting seniors through mobility and small business initiatives. If after you answer a question you want to rebut another candidate's comments, give me a small wave, and depending on timing, we may offer you a 30-second time to rebut. Starting out question one with Cyrus. Tell us about your past service to Newton and other aspects of your background that equip you to represent constituents. And do you believe voters elect you to represent your views or to represent their diverse views?
Thanks for the question, Alan, and thank you everyone for being here. So I've been a lifelong Newton guy. My kind of community focus within Newton has always been my church. I've been a lifelong parishioner, choir member, and occasional cantor at Corpus Christi St. Bernard Parish in West Newton, where I've been going with my mother for my entire life. And a big part of, I think, what I would bring to the table in terms of the skills that are necessary I'm a board member of the Boston Children's Chorus, where I'm the chair of the governance committee and have been for 5 years. I've been in firm leadership. I was in firm leadership at my firm for my 7 years there. So I'm capable and practiced at sort of the fiscal administrative management of a team.
Thank you.
Okay.
John, same question.
Our job is to represent the voice of the citizens. For over 20 years, I've been involved in for over 20 years. For my entire life, I've been in service. I started with Habitat for Humanity. I've been a volunteer teacher. I'm very active in my church, Our Lady's Parish, up the street from Cyrus. And I've been very involved in Newton matters for quite some time. Currently, I'm working with Green Newton on to evaluate EV buses and their initiatives. I've also been representing some of my neighbors who have asked me to help them since they found out I was running. I've been working to help get the Burr School playground opened up. So representing the voters is our #1 job. And as a leader, what I think of my job is as a servant leader, somebody that runs a business. Thank you.
Thanks. Josh, same question.
Thank you, Ellen. And thank you to you and the area councils for this fantastic day and all these debates. They're really informative and helpful for the people. So in terms of my history, since moving back, I grew up here. My wife and I both grew up here and went to the Newton Public Schools. But since moving back, I served 4 terms as the Lower Falls Improvement Association president. I was a co-president of the Williams PTO. I served as the chair of the Newton Charter Commission. And for the past 8 years, I've been a member of the City Council. And as a member of the City Council, including 2 terms as chair of the Programs and Services Committee, I believe I've demonstrated both that you can represent the will of the people who elected you, but also stay true to the values and beliefs for which you were represented, or which you were elected in that representation.
Thank you. John, Newton has a strong mayor form of government that greatly limits the power of the city council. Do you support changes such as the city council having its own attorney, more say over the hiring of departmental heads, and authentic participation in shaping the city's budget?
Yes. I think the job of the city councilor is to represent the public. When we do not have power, it is difficult to represent the voices that are being heard. Things like having an attorney is a rational way to do that. We've heard over the last 5 years that people have been speaking and have been sharing their voices, but they haven't been listened to. And I think strengthening the city council will give us more ability to represent the population, the citizens.
Thanks. Josh?
Thank you for that question. I mentioned in the first response that I was the chair of the Newton Charter Commission. The Charter Commission reviewed the entire charter for the city of Newton and spent 18 months developing a proposal to put forward a new charter for the city, which included restructuring our government and reviewing the powers within those different bodies. One of the main things that we recommended was providing counsel to the council, so legal representation to the city council, explicitly and separately funded with a mandatory budget each and every year. Unfortunately, that didn't come to pass. Then, as a city councilor, I put forward charter amendments, which have to go through a process of a home rule petition. And so we passed something on the city council that required the city council to have legal representation. Unfortunately, that was vetoed by the mayor at the time. My answer is yes. I'm a strong supporter of that provision.
Thank you. Cyrus?
In addition to all having chickens, we all agree on yes on this. Yes, I would support that kind of effort to bring legal representation to the city council, and I would also support city councilors taking on the expectations of leadership, which means being great civic advocates, being great community organizers and engagers, and using that as another tool by which city councilors can represent their constituents and the citizens.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Josh. Newton's ARPA and other federal COVID monies are spent. Federal and state aid cuts are happening. The survey conducted by the area councils indicated little support for tax increases or overrides. Do you agree? And what ideas would you bring to improve Newton's fiscal health?
Thank you for that question. It's a question that municipalities across the country and states across the country are wrestling with, because we are seeing diminishing federal revenues. We are seeing limited options for states to provide revenues to the municipalities, and the municipalities really have to figure out what to do about that, Newton among them. Budgets are demonstrations of priorities. My first priority to this city is the Newton Public Schools. What I would like to see is us start with our public school budget, make sure that we give our schools the budget that they request, that they need, that our fantastic new superintendent, Dr. Nolan, requests, and work from there. If we need additional revenues, we need to take that to the citizens and show them why it is that we're asking them for additional revenue.
Thank you. Cyrus, same question.
So yes, I think we are all beginning to recognize that almost on a daily basis, we're seeing departments and funding from the federal level basically evaporate, the kind of support that cities and states have relied on for forever. We are now going to face the challenges of navigating that funding evaporation. I agree with Josh that we really need to prioritize funding our schools. In my conversation with Dr. Nolan, I said, yes, everything that you're saying, and then more. What more can we do to support our students and support our schools? And I think that as we face the reality of lack of support for overrides, we will have to look at both of the tools that are available to us, convincing, making the case for an override and why it's valuable at the time that it's needed, and using smart, strategic, targeted growth to create revenue that we can then use to fund the things that we care about, including our schools.
Thank you. John?
As a finance professional, a co-founder of a nonprofit educational institution, as well as a for-profit commercial business that's focused on clean energy, this is an area that I hope to provide a lot of direction and insight to with the City Council. One of the things that we need to do is look at other ways to raise money. Grant writing is one of the greatest ways that we can do that costs nothing, and it would be an investment in a person in order to bring additional dollars. Other cities and towns around us are doing this better than we are, and we can do better. The second thing that we can do is we can invest in more public-private partnerships. And what that does is take some of our expenses off of our bottom line and turn them into assets or investments as well.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
So I want to just clarify, grant writing does cost something. It costs an employee. We have to, or multiple employees. That's salaries that we have to bring on to be able to fund the time and expense of getting those grants. And making the argument for a city like Newton, one of the richest cities in the country, to be able to receive those grants, I think is going to be uniquely challenging. And so while I support that, we're also seeing those grants evaporate from the federal and state level.
Yes.
Appreciate that, and I think the federal and the grant places are where some places we can find some grants. However, there are plenty of cities and towns that are wealthier or equally wealthy to Newton that are receiving these grant monies. And what we should do is we should look at a wider range of places. So there are many nonprofits as well that will support many of our important initiatives. Second thing is that an investment in an employee, if you invest $1 in an employee and they can turn $2 in return, that is the way you grow money. You have to make an investment and take a risk in order to get a return.
Thank you. Next question, we're starting with Cyrus. Residents indicate, obviously, that they want to protect the environment and address climate change. What steps would you take to include constituents in planning and policy making around public works, open space, wildlife habitat, tree cover protection, birdo, and incentivizing renewable energy?
That's all?
Yeah.
Okay. We need to be great community engagers around the environment, especially because there is consensus around it. So I think that we should be leading, community tours through our open areas. The Friends of the Cold Spring Park right here do a great job doing that can engage people on the complexities of our environment and create deeper awareness and education about how our environment works. I also think that we should be putting forward opportunities for people new opportunities for people that hopefully can begin to supplant or replace some of these lost federal and state opportunities around increasing sustainability in buildings, around increasing the renaturalization of our open spaces and waterways, engage people in conversations about the complexities between invasive species and native species. Those kinds of things are the ways that we're going to be able to get people to move forward once they're fully educated around this.
Thanks. Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks. I think there's a balance. And you always have to look on the city council, the balance between your policies, your actions, and the requests you have before you. I think the city council has done a pretty good job at protecting our resources. And as an example, I'll give you the tree ordinance that my committee, the Programs and Services Committee, undertook this past last session. So we spent about 18 months reviewing the tree ordinance, which protects the trees in the city of Newton. It lays out what you have to do if you want to remove a tree, what you have to do in terms of replacement, in terms of payment into the city. And we were very deliberative with that, and we came up with a proposal that ultimately, I think, unanimously passed the city council.
Thank you. John, your answer?
After I left my career in inner city education, I got my degree at Babson in finance, and I immediately started a career in clean energy because the environment was something that was critically important to me. One of the things I've learned is that sustainability and economics go hand in hand, and they actually are win-wins. Good policies are investments in the future. I do not believe this is a grassroots thing at this point in time. Newton has created an incredible clean energy action plan. We just need to put the finance to it and pull it forward. And I bring the skills that can make that happen.
Thank you. Next question, John, you get to start. Newton has seen its commercial tax base shrink. Commercial tax rates, as you know, are higher than residential tax rates and generate lower costs. Has Newton allowed too much of commercially zoned land to be converted to residential? And what steps would you take, if any, to restore Newton's commercial tax base?
We've seen a lot of competition for real estate lately, not only from potential home buyers, but from investors, speculators, and developers. As you say, much of that has become more residential than it has been commercial. Some large developments have shrunk their commercial footprints. We talk a lot about the importance of having mixed use, but we're not really seeing that happen. I believe strongly in small business, not only because I'm a business owner and I feel strongly for those people, but because I think they are critical components of our community. If you look at businesses like Johnny's and O'Hara's and the Village Bank, those are all local businesses that reinvest regularly. So what I'd like to do is I would like to increase our spending in our economic development in order to do a better job of supporting those local businesses and increasing our commercial tax bases.
Thank you. Cyrus?
So I think, as you said, our tax base is quite imbalanced. We have approximately 92% of our taxes come from residential, or from single-family residential in particular. So I think we do need to find smart strategies to expand our commercial tax base. One of those that I believe could work is looking at our underused and unused industrial and manufacturing districts and zoning with options. So creating by-right zoning there for multifamily, for residential, for mixed use and commercial development. The commercial market this is the world that I've been working in for the last 7 years. The commercial market is really bad right now. It's quite difficult to get into. But I don't want to start a planning process when the opportunity is here and on its way out the door. I think we need to be planning for those opportunities now, so that when they come through the door in 3 or 5 years, we're able to take advantage of them and have put a plan in place for them.
Josh, your turn.
Yeah, thank you. I think our commercial tax base is really important to the city. And so we should be doing what we can to support both the businesses that are here, but also to bring new businesses into the city. We're seeing an alarming number of empty storefronts at the moment, and that's very troubling. And so what our businesses tell us is that they need people. They're telling us that they need more housing to house both their employees, to bring customers in, to help support those businesses. So one of the best things we can do to help our business is actually expand our housing base. But we can also do that without giving up our retail and commercial space. And as a very small example of this, I will point to the Riverside development, which is now proposed to be 750 units of housing and about 20,000 square feet of retail. I have actually been pushing to increase the amount of retail at that location because I think it'll help both the development as well as the community around it.
Thanks. Looks like, John, you have a rebuttal.
Thank you. Yeah. What I'd like to say is I think that we do need to increase our commercial and retail through better planning and pulling the right retail and the right type of commercial. The entire commercial market is not failing. The large format, 100 square foot commercial space is, but smaller footprint, shared spaces, WeWork type are doing very well as retail. And I think as a city, we need to be more intentional. I think Josh mentioned, but we need to be more intentional about the type of retail that we're pulling and that we're attracting. That needs to be the city's job as far as planning that.
Thanks.
Can I just
Sure.
respond quickly? So the other thing that we can do is look at our ordinances and in terms of the parking requirements that we place on new businesses. So we have businesses that want to open, and thank you everybody. But we require that they build parking as a city, as part of our zoning ordinance. And what we should be doing is allowing them to build the amount of parking that they believe, so as opposed to us adding costs onto their entry into the city, they determine what their costs are to have a successful and sustainable business.
Thank you. Question 6. In theory, hiring consultants represents savings because Newton isn't hiring more employees with the associated benefits. But Newton's record is uneven in that area, with some open-end, no-bid contracts. In some cases, consultants dictating policy by engaging in public engagement with preordained results, and money spent on consultant reports that end up shelved. As a city councilor, what would you do to increase transparency and ensure consultants are cost-effective? And Josh, why don't you start?
That question seems to have been written by someone who's very down on consultants. It comes through a little bit if you really parse through the question there. I think consultants are actually an important part of what we do. I think we have public servants working for the city. We have city councilors who basically have a part-time job, and we're not necessarily the experts in every area, okay? Councilors are generalists. We are not specialists. Consultants are specialists. and they play a very valuable role in helping us determine appropriate policies to solve the challenges that we have before us. Transparency is fantastic, all for it. The reason I think some people have been down on the consultants is they have had a vision into what they're doing or what they have done and didn't like it, and that's okay. But I think consultants play a very valuable role to the work of a municipality.
John?
Consultants do play an important role, the role of an expert. They can also be biased, and bias is a dangerous thing. What we need to do is we need to make sure that when we hire a consultant, that we are vetting them fully, that the information is made available, both the costs and where they stand on the issues, and find a moderate consultant. That being said, I think they can bring a lot of value to the table because, as I would agree with Josh, the city council are generalists. We need that level of expertise to dive down. We also need to take that information and share it with the public and get the public's feedback before we make decisions, because it's the local people that we represent.
Thanks. Cyrus?
Yeah, I appreciate the tone of this question as the only person up here, I believe, who's been a consultant to the city. I was, as part of the work that I've done for the city, I was the inclusionary zoning compliance reviewer for the Northland development, ensuring that we held the developers' feet to the fire on the affordable housing commitments that they had made as part of that project. I can tell you firsthand how that process works. We do not make any of the decisions. We are reviewing the policies and ensuring that the developers or whoever is involved is being held accountable. The decisions are being made by the city council, by the various city departments, and they are great decision makers. They work hard to faithfully enact the rules and laws that are being put forward. So I do think that consultants are an important part of the process, and I think that they can be utilized really well to get the work of the city done.
Next question, right back at you, Cyrus. What steps would you take as a city councilor to help ensure that home ownership and rental homes remain affordable options for Newton residents, and generally any other housing thoughts you would like to add?
Generally, any housing thoughts I'd like to add are, so I think there are a couple of tools that we can use here. We do have less expensive homes in the city. I would not call really any of our single-family homes really affordable. We do have less expensive options, and we should be looking at strategies like the one that I've talked about a bit to tie together the preservation of less expensive homes with the preservation of trees. I think that that's a consensus kind of policy that we can get behind. I also think we know that through supply, supply and demand as a basic economic principle means that if we create more housing options, we will have less expensive housing options for people to be able to live in. And to do that, we need to be able to create multi-unit buildings at and near in our village centers and around our public transportation that can make the city more affordable for people.
John?
Demand for Newton real estate sets the price. Today, not only homeowners are looking to buy the property, speculators, developers, institutional capital are all demanding those same parcels. That's driving costs up. We need to protect the naturally affordable occurring houses. These are the smaller houses on smaller lots. We have that, and Cyrus and I fully agree on that. We also need to strive to create more ownership opportunities. A lot of the new development that we've seen has been high-end, high-rate rentals. That's not creating affordability, and that's not creating equity for any of these people. Finally, if we look to increase the supply of affordable units, we need to update our inclusive zoning ordinance. We need to make sure that our developers are paying a fair price when they buy out of it. And finally, we need to work with true nonprofit developers to increase the supply of truly affordable houses.
Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad John mentioned the inclusionary zoning ordinance, because it is one valuable tool that we have, and the city council appropriately and regularly reviews the inclusionary zoning ordinance to make sure that we're getting affordable, quote unquote, affordable units constructed along with the additional units that we're seeing built around the city. I agree with Cyrus here that the biggest thing we can do to put downward pressure on the price of housing is to increase the supply. Like Cyrus said, I think the simple laws of supply and demand have demonstrated in the past that additional supply is the biggest tool you have to help contain those costs for individuals looking to move into the community.
Thank you.
Can I add something here?
Sure, you can.
I think when we talk about affordability, we are really perhaps in many cases using the wrong word. There is very little in Newton that is actually affordable. And that is you can look at our 2016 housing report to confirm that unless we change something fairly drastically, that's going to stay that way. When we talk about renters versus homeowners, frankly, I have no hope of buying a home in this community, none at all. And nobody that I grew up with who's 32 years old, who grew up in this community, has any hope at this point of owning a home that they could raise a family in. We need to do something that makes it possible for young families and for seniors to be able to continue to live here affordably.
John?
I'm a young family, and I afford Newton. My first house was in Watertown. It was the first place I can afford. It was an 800 square foot condo built for the vets returning from the war. I lived there. I built equity in that home as an owner, not as a renter. And I was able to put up enough of a pittance to be able to buy a property that a developer didn't want to buy. It was the worst house in the best neighborhood. I've now moved up the street because I built equity and I was able to move on. So I think it's really a holistic perspective that we should be taking here. It is hard, and affordability is an important thing. But I think we also need to look at all the stories when we look at affordability.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with what you did, John.
Thank you.
And I think it's great, and it's wonderful that you and your lovely family live here. I am 32 years old, and not to make this a thing about age, I'm a little bit younger than both of you. And the reality is that 15 or 17 years makes a huge difference in what is possible. That market that you both bought into is gone for people my age. Unless you are making a boatload of money, only the wealthiest people are able to come and live and buy into this community. And it just is not realistic that someone... Sure. Thank you.
I'm just going to add one thing
Yes.
there, because
Yes.
they did. We all live here, which is great. So obviously something worked. We all got here. That's wonderful. But when you set policy and when you set your priorities and when you look at the ordinances and you set zoning, what you're talking about is the future. And you're talking about who's going to be able to move here, who's going to be able to live here. And I think it's important that we have a diversity of our housing stock so that a diversity of people and individuals are able to move into the community.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Newton schools, we all know, face challenges and account for over 2/3 of the budget. As a city councilor, how would you protect taxpayers and maintain other vital city services? John?
This is an area that got me interested in Newton civics. I looked at the budgets for the past 10 years of the city budgets. I crunched the numbers, and I determined that we were systematically funding our schools less and less over that period of time. We were funding other areas more and more. What that means is that we have the ability to move levers, to take money from one place and put it to another. One of those areas that we've overfunded, and we are 8 years ahead of schedule, is funding our pension obligations. That is a long time. If we just took half of that and reallocated some of that money, we could fund our schools fully and still meet our pension obligations according to our actuarial analysis.
Thank you. Josh?
Thank you. As I mentioned in, I think, an earlier question, the schools are my #1 priority. And when it comes to budgeting as a city, I think that's where you demonstrate what your priorities are. And I would like to see this city fund the schools like they are our #1 priority. I don't think it's over 2/3 of the city budget, but I think it depends what you include in that calculation, whether it's
Benefits,
buildings,
et cetera.
benefits, et cetera. But I think we owe it to our schools to fund them appropriately. When it comes to other funding priorities, we all have priorities, but if we're all up here talking about that the schools are going to be a top priority, I think everyone who says that has to show it when they're in office.
Thanks. Cyrus?
I agree that I think relooking at our pension obligations and putting those onto a schedule that makes more money available in the short and medium term is a good strategy. I also think that the fact that we are currently asking citizens to engage in government by subscription, for example, by charging people to send their kids on the school bus, is indicative of a reality that we are facing a precipitous financial cliff, and we need to do a better job of generating income to be able to afford the things that we all know and love here, which are our schools and our open spaces and our infrastructure. And I believe that generating revenue through smart, targeted growth in our village centers and around our transportation, and using that revenue and reinvesting it in our schools is the right answer.
Josh, many of the surveyed residents and business owners said that they feel that City Hall, developers, consultants drive changes to village centers with little real input. As a city councilor, how would you ensure, or how do you ensure, genuine community participation before decisions are made?
Well, one of the ways to get community participation is the special permit process, which occurs around large developments, and every special permit process includes public comment. In addition to that, however, if city councilors are doing a good job, they are talking to their neighbors, they're talking to their community, they're talking to folks in and around proposed developments and in and around the village centers during those debates and during that process. In fact, we should be talking to them regularly so that we have that input even going into those debates and going into those discussions. Like many have said, we should have an idea of what it is that we want to go into those places before those developments are proposed. And I think the Village Center Overlay District was a really good example of those affirmative steps to say, this is where we want development, these are the types of things that we want, here are the incentives to do this type of development over that type of development, now come and get it.
Same question, Cyrus, about community involvement in major public areas and development.
So I've worked in community engagement for basically the whole beginning of my career. And I know that the process by which community engagement happens meaningfully it means that you are not going into things with a predetermined conclusion. You have to be, community engagement means going forward, designing the questions even together, designing the questions with community, working through them, then designing the answers together. As an architect who's done community engagement, I believe that that's a special skill that I would bring to the council, because it would mean that a process by which we say, great, we're listening, here's an answer, an option that we're putting forward, and then let's work through the final conclusions together. So, and I think that community engagement as part of our processes, whether it's in special permitting, whether it's in zoning, in all of the ways that we make decisions together, is a crucial part of how we're going to get anything done in a way that creates real buy-in and meaningful impact.
John, what say you?
I agree that the special use permit and these public comment periods are really important. I think the things that Cyrus talked about are natural, and I think we can always do a better job of engaging. Where I think the breakdown is occurring is in two places, is in the listening and in the implementation of what we're hearing. And I think, number one, change needs to occur. And we talked about that earlier. Can the city council have a little bit more authority in this so they can actually represent the voices of the people? And then the second is the city is negotiating with developers when things are being planned, not the city council. That's being done behind closed doors. That information needs to make it out into the public. And then the public can actually be engaged and be knowledgeable. Those are the two changes that we need to make.
Thank you.
Can I jump in? I actually think, especially through the special permit process, but also through zoning, that is the city council negotiating with developers. That is a process that shows, I think in some ways, you spoke earlier about public-private partnerships. Put zoning, by right zoning on top of a proposed development, that's a public-private partnership.
And just to clarify, I mean, if I said the wrong thing, forgive me. I said the city is negotiating, not necessarily the city council. So city employees are doing negotiating, not the city council. And I think that needs to be brought more to the city council.
But the city council is doing that during the process.
At some level.
They permitted, and again, through zoning. That's the city council determination right there.
At some level, but it's not being heard.
Thank you. Some residents report confusion and safety issues with traffic parking, bike and scooter use, and road pilots, especially people with mobility challenges. How would you include constituents before changes? And if you want to add your comments about the winter overnight parking ban, feel free. Cyrus.
45 seconds or less. You got it.
Sure. Maybe I'll take those backwards and I'll start with the parking ban. I don't know why I did that to myself, but sure. So on the parking ban, I think on November 4th, we're all going to decide this together as a city. I believe that as someone with a background in architecture and urban design and planning, my skills on the council would be useful to whatever comes from that decision. It's going to, no matter whether it's a yes or a no to the repeal, it means that we're going to have to take a more precise look and design more nuanced plans to stop having this one-size-fits-all solution that isn't a solution. That's step one. What was step?
Really just other thoughts about confusion with traffic,
Sure.
scooter usage.
I think that the most important thing has to be safety, and that means safety for everybody on our streets. It also means accessibility for everybody on our streets, from our transportation system to our roads to the ways that we get kids to school with safe routes to school. So we have to be prioritizing safety. That should be the number one consideration. The next consideration needs to be the climate. How are we improving our sustainability future, our lowering emissions, and making a more sustainable environment for all of us?
Thank you. Josh, I'll just restate the question since it's a long one.
The six questions.
Some residents report confusion and safety issues with traffic parking, bike scooter use, and road pilots, especially people with mobility challenges. Your thoughts there, and again, parking ban optional.
Yeah, I want to talk very definitively about the parking ban. No, what I'll say is this. I remember when there was a bike lane being striped on Walnut Street. And there was an uproar and people were saying, where's this going? It's not going anywhere. No one bikes. This is crazy. We now see bike lanes in a large part of the city. We see more and more bikers out there. We see more and more scooters out there. I am an advocate for the separated and protected bike lanes and pedestrian amenities. I think they're valuable to our city. I think in conjunction with traffic calming measures, they make the city safer and more navigable for commuters and folks' transportation, of all types of transportation. When it comes to the parking ban, I will say that I am not a fan of the overnight parking ban because I think it is a one-size-fits-all solution for the whole city that doesn't actually fit all. I am an advocate for neighborhood-by-neighborhood plans that do make sense. And I think the City Council years ago had the wisdom to create a traffic council, which takes up matters like that every month.
Thank you. John?
So I believe with traffic and traffic patterns, keep it simple is one of the best things that we can employ. Safety needs to come first. I think the amount of paint and equipment that have been installed make it difficult for people to know what the rules are and what's right and what's safe. That said, I'm open to pilots. Try something, evaluate it, and then modify. Be willing to modify. Regarding the parking ban, I think I share both of these gentlemen's perspectives that a one-size-fits-all probably isn't the right answer. What I like is that it made it to the ballot. I like that it's democracy in action. So while I'm going to vote no for the parking ban, I'm going to vote yes for the City Council to pick it up. And as you say, maybe it's in that committee in order to address on a localized, targeted basis, because it does make sense in some areas.
Last question before we get to closing statements. Division and intolerance, racism, anti-Semitism, other forms of hate have increased nationwide and to some extent in Newton. How would you promote respect, inclusion, and open dialogue in city government and community life? That is John.
As a member of a large family, a large, diverse family, and a business owner who represents many people and requires the input of many people, what I've learned is that having open and transparent dialogue is the most important thing that you can have in order to make good decisions. Respecting people's rights to have opinions is critical within that. In the city, we need to make sure that everyone has an ability to be listened to. I think there are three things that we could consider for that. We could create more community spaces for cultural and diverse celebrations. We can host forums for dialogue and safe places for people to talk and share and learn. And finally, we should promote diversity in our workforce and our leadership through mentor programs.
Cyrus?
I think I agree with a lot of what John has said here, but I also think that a big part of this means leading as leaders. So we need to be engaging in the kind of civil, friendly, trust building discourse with each other as city councilors, if I'm lucky enough to be voted in, with the mayor's office, with the school committee, with everybody involved, so that our residents can see what it looks like to have differences, work through them together, and get good things done. I think that that's a key way that we can lead by example. I also think that we need to, it's not just about opening the doors and letting people in, it's about actually going out, doing the work, inviting people in, bringing people to the table, understanding when the table isn't working for them. That real diversity, equity, and inclusion, justice, and liberation for everybody means the extra work that you do to make sure that the people who have been marginalized are able to have their voices heard.
Josh.
Yeah, I think that was a great response. And I think we do need to be an open and inclusive community and accepting of folks of all backgrounds and all races, creeds, styles, sexual preferences. I think most of the members of our community do that effectively. And I think our policies speak to that. I know that there were some comments made recently that were not viewed that way. And I think it is very important that we give each other the space to sort of work through issues that may be new to us or that we may be working through. And I think, to John's credit, he issued a statement that sort of said, I use this as an opportunity to learn. I have heard from folks. I actually want to give him an opportunity to tell us, what it is that he learned, because I give him credit for issuing those statements.
We'll go to closing statements if you'd like to respond.
Sure. Thanks, Josh. As a concerned parent, I've asked questions through my life in order to become the best parent that I can, in order to look out for every child's well-being. And I've had conversations on Facebook, which is not a great forum, in order to learn more. Through that process, I learned a lot. And I also desire to make sure that all children have a caring and inclusive life. I've made a statement on this topic, and y'all can take a look at it. So I'm a person who's open to learning and listening, and I want to be open to dialogue as well. And I think that's fundamentally important. Thank you.
For closing, please. For closing statements, let's go in reverse alphabetical order by first name. So, Josh.
I knew that's where you were headed. So very quickly, I'll just say that this is a very important election, okay? We're going to have a new mayor. We're going to have 7 new members of our school committee, and we're going to have at least 7 new members of the city council. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of new people in high positions in the city. I have been on the city council for 8 years. I think my record speaks for itself, and I think my experience speaks for itself. I'm hoping to be a voice of that can help us through that transition. That can be some experience that you can count on. So again, I'm Josh Krinsman. Feel free to visit joshkrinsman.com. And I am hoping for a 5th term because I would like to see us continue on the progress that we have made as a city council in a number of areas, but in particular through all my work on the Programs and Services Committee. Thank you.
John?
Reverse alphabetical order?
Yes.
My first name.
By first name. Got it. Missed that part of it.
It's my secret middle name.
His secret middle name. All right. I was not born into privilege. I'm the son of an immigrant father, a single mother who taught me to look for the good in people, to respect differing opinions, and to work hard for what matters. I'm a proven leader who's volunteer taught in the inner city and founded a clean energy company. I have 3 children in the Newton Public Schools because I believe in public education, and I have brought family members under my roof to support them. My actions have created real change in this world. I offer the skill of financial literacy to the City Council, a skill that is underrepresented and critically important to nearly every decision we make. I'm here to listen to what you have to say, to use facts and decision-making to be a servant leader. I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Cyrus, you get the last word.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for being here, the area councils for hosting this event, Alan for moderating us, and Josh and John for continuing the conversation that we've been having in the world's longest interview. I hope that I've demonstrated to you that I have the know-how, the vision, and the care to not just get the important work ahead of us done, but also to do it in a way that we can all be proud of and that can hopefully bring us all together. We do face real challenges and stark choices ahead, especially in how we will fund the things that we all care most about, like our schools, our open spaces, and our infrastructure. I will be your independent voice on the council in facing these challenges. I will listen to you, leaning on my years of experience translating community engagement into smart civic solutions. I will similarly bring an underrepresented set of skills as an architectural urban designer, and I will bring the new voice of a new generation as the council's youngest member. I'm asking for your vote on or before November 4th so that we can build a Newton we can all love and all afford. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Cyrus.
Thanks, Alan.
Oh.